Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta labeled the Gunners' fiery 1-1 draw with Liverpool on Saturday evening as one of the most intense and hectic football games he has ever been involved in. Owing to Aston Villa's failure to beat Sheffield United on Friday evening, the North London Giants travelled to Anfield clinging onto top spot in the Premier League table, 1 point above the Lions and third-placed Liverpool. Not since Arteta's playing heyday had Arsenal won a Premier League fixture at Anfield, when Lucas Podolski and Santi Cazorla were on target in a 2-0 success in September 2012, and the Gunners had thrown away a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 on the Reds' turf at the back end of last season. Arteta's men were on course to end that hoodoo after just 4 minutes, as Gabriel Magalhaes peeled away from Ibrahima Konate and headed home from Martin Odegaard's in-swinging free kick, making history with Arsenal's earliest ever Premier League goal at Anfield. The Gunners' lead was whacked out just before the half-hour mark, though, as Mohamed Salah beat Oleksandr Zinchenko far too easily on the right-hand side, cutting onto his favored left foot and leaving David Raya with no chance as he fired home into the roof of the net. Let's go around the punditry world to hear what the experts are saying about Arsenal's performance at Anfield.
I love that the players can handle this, that shows real maturity and belief in the players that we come to the ground, we want to be ourselves, and that's not easy. That's easy to say, but very difficult actually to do it against a team like that.
Well, there's still a lot to play, ahead of us, and we just need to go step by step. We need to show our best performance every single time as soon as we're on the pitch. It doesn't matter which competition it is, and then in the end, we're going to see.
If you have the opportunity like we had, and obviously they had their moments as well because they are a very good team, then you try to punish them.
I saw now a penalty situation that's obviously rather a VAR situation than a ref situation, because I'm not sure the ref can see it, but if you look at that, I don't know how you cannot come to the conclusion it's a penalty. I don't know who sat in that room. So that's just a good football game, and we were at least level with Arsenal, which is this year definitely good news.
Well, honours even between the top two, but both defences held firm. But it was a fullback who could perhaps be described as more like a quarterback that caught you.
Oh, he's absolutely special. Trent Alexander-Arnold was just exceptional today, especially with his passing. But it's not just his passing, it's the space he creates for himself to make these passes. We see him in his position, in a right-back position, but he just knows when to pass it, the ball, the timing, everything is just brilliant. And look at this, he's saying to Van Dijk, Konate, move out the way. This is the quarterback you're talking about, Gary. Just the fade to drop it down for Salah's goal. Salah's going to do rest. Zinchenko should probably show him the other side, and it's a great goal. But 67 Premier League, or 57 Premier League assists. I'm getting excited, but look at that for a little, slazzing pass. It's unbelievable. I mean, watching him and how modern-day football fullbacks have evolved, it's just brilliant to see. It really is. And the link-up with him and Salah today was brilliant. But this is what I like. At the end, he could have won it. I didn't know he was this quick, to be honest. We see he's got good technique, good passing and all that. But he can move as well. Ball comes to him, and I'm going to let him off because it just bobbles. It just bobbles. If you just see there, a little bobble. He gets a nice technique across it, but it wasn't meant to be for him.
A bit like watching you and your hair, dear.
I've got a few.
The Odegaard handball was a tad bewildering, this decision, I must say.
I think Arsenal got very fortunate here. I really think that's handball. I mean, when you consider some of the handball decisions we've seen, I know he slips, but his arms out wide. He hits it twice, doesn't it? He actually sort of lands on the ball as well, doesn't he?
Is he not falling now?
Well, he didn't fall, did he?
He didn't fall. He didn't put his hand on the ground.
Didn't put his hand on the ground.
But he did put his hand on the ball.
Yeah, very fortunate, I think, to get away with that.
Extremely. Luton's first game since captain Tom Lockyer suffered a cardiac arrest in the match against Bournemouth saw them face Newcastle. Lockyer was released from hospital this week to continue his recovery at home. Great news. Mark Scott was at Kenilworth Road.
The goal we scored was absolutely exceptional. What a pass, my God, what a finish. Absolutely exceptional. And I think we would have deserved a second goal. How I said, we don't know how the game will then end, but and they didn't give up. I have to say, until last second there was nothing. With all the intensity, everybody felt it. It was super intense. Probably I don't know who they play and if they play in 3 days, but probably Burnley. Sat in front of the television. Great. So it's just tough game, good game, in moments spectacular. And, that's it.
It was an unbelievable game of football, one of the most intense games that I have witnessed in this league for 20 years. I thought both teams were really willing to win it. I'm so proud of my team, the way we conducted, the character and the passion and the quality that we showed. And at the end, I had the feeling that we wanted the second one. We haven't managed, but probably at the end it's a fair result.
Disappointed, but it was a big fight, a great game to be involved in. Arsenal's a very good team, of course, and but I think we had the opportunities to win the game, and fortunately we didn't. It was intense for both sides, I think, and we move on. 1 point more than we started, so that's obviously a positive.
First of all, Premier League is obviously the best league in the world, and at the moment, Liverpool and Arsenal are at the top, and we expected the tough game, like battling on every single position, and that's what we expected, to be fair.
4 post-match interviews from Anfield, and all 4 saying virtually the same thing, a tough game. What do you say?
I'll make it 5 then. It was a really good game. Really enjoyed it. There were chances, there was controversies, there were goals, a lot of yellow cards for a game that didn't really have too many bad tackles. But it was a great advert for the Premier League. 2 teams that are obviously going to be fighting there at the end of the season. Liverpool may have just edged it on points, but I thought overall it was a pretty fair result. When you look at all the stats, they pretty much mirror each other. So it was a really good game, one that I enjoyed.
I think as well, why you hear them saying about how intense, and Mikel's saying it's one of the best games 20 years, and how intense it was, is because of what they expect from each other, and they knew that any mistakes was going to be punished, and that's what I thought happened with the 2 goals. It was 2 mistakes by players, and in the end they got punished for those things. But in the end, it was more a game of not enough going on in the both boxes for me. But it was the jeopardy of what could have happened, why everybody thought it was so intense.
Let's stick with you. What were the mistakes by Liverpool for the opening goal?
Well, I think for Liverpool with the opening goal, like I say, Arsenal firstly, the closing down is what I was expecting from them. And with a Liverpool side, you wanted to make sure that you close them down so you can win the ball back in these areas, and then bam, you get this kind of situation, this scenario. And then you've got the quality of someone like Martin Odegaard, who can put it in there on a sixpence for you. We can see how tight it is. Liverpool trying at first to try and keep them offside. But then once they fall back in, everybody is onside. And then you can see the fact that they're onside here. You can see from behind here. But I think that you look at someone like Konate and he cannot get himself back inside Jesus and Gabriel Magalhaes, And so once this is happening, if the ball's good enough, he's got a free header. And that's the mistake Liverpool made in that situation. You see him, he didn't know if he should go in, if he should come out. In the end, he leaves them with a free header and he punishes them.
He's done well to score there.
He has. It's a lovely header of the ball. I'm just trying to look at it from a defensive point of view, how they can stop that. They can either really drop deep, sort of on this 6-yard box, and all come out to try to head the ball. They can actually play offside.
If they're brave enough.
If they're brave enough. But you wouldn't want to do that every time because, eventually you get caught. Or you have the situation where it's a little bit tricky. I mean, I remember when the rule came in, you could stand offside and all the rest of it. I used to watch Ruud van Nistelrooy do it all the time. He used to stand offside all the time. And as soon as a ball was kicked, he would go this side all of a sudden for a split second. So he's onside for literally a split second, offside all the other time. And he was brilliant at, bending that rule, let's say. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And that's what Arsenal have done there. Really clever from them.
The equalising goal was a milestone one for Mo Salah. Let's talk about the finish.
Well, the finish was like, we know what he can do, but you cannot give Trent Alexander that time, even though he's picking the ball up as the deepest man. Once you get into this situation, you have to keep him on the right foot. You cannot let him come back in because he's been doing that since he came here. Look at the space. Gabriel Jesus goes, but it's too late. Look, he's within a yard. If he does that and cuts the ball off to their most prolific attacking creative player, you're probably going to stop that pass. And the same with Zinchenko. You've got to encourage him to go on the right. You can see there's no one's going to be able to get into the box if you showed him onto the right foot in time. He doesn't do it. And at this level, with this calibre of player, you are going to be punished from Trent and from Mo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great goal from Liverpool's point of view. Probably avoidable from Arsenal's point of view. I mean, I guess you'd probably want Jesus just pushing him towards Canate.
Exactly,
give the ball to Canate.
exactly. So what
anybody but Trent.
Honest, Michael, this is what George Graham, he'd say, right, if Trent drops in there, make sure you stop him from getting it. Let him pass it to anyone else, because the rest of them can't do that. And that's where you get punished, because he can do that.
Let's look at why it's a milestone goal for Mo Salah. We've got a graphic for you there that confirms he is now 10th on the all-time Premier League top scorers list, passing the man standing alongside me. 151 goals now, just one more than Michael Owen's 150.
Yeah, but Michael done it all when he was like 17.
He's taken all my records.
And just before Christmas, too.
Yeah.
Should Liverpool have had a penalty? That's one of the big questions we're going to be asking all week long, probably.
Yeah, I think they should have. Of course, the referee is probably in a difficult situation there in terms of his vision. He's looking across, maybe through bodies. Of course, he's got the backup of VAR. I think that the ball, or the hand, definitely comes towards the ball. It stops the ball from going past Odegaard. Mo Salah is running round him. I think on balance, I think that's a penalty, yeah.
I think you can see there's a slip there, but it's unfortunate. I would want that. If that was for against Arsenal, I would have wanted that. I'm sure Liverpool would have wanted that, especially what it means at this stage of the season to get those 3 points. But for me, that's a penalty. They should have given that as a penalty.
Our two former strikers in the studio calling for a penalty. Surprise, surprise. Let's hear the expert's opinion then. Dermot Gallagher, former Premier League referee, is joining us now here on Matchday Live Extra. Dermot, do you agree with the two gentlemen in studio, or do you think that was the correct call?
I do agree with him in the end, Jules. Yeah, I think when I first see it, I thought he was slipping, very much like the referee, and I can understand the referee on the pitch not giving it. I think he's slipping. The VAR felt that with the subjective nature of handball, he thinks he's slipping and his arm's coming in. But when you see that last picture, Jules, it looks like he moves towards the ball, and I think a more acceptable decision would have been a penalty.
Wouldn't they look at that, just to feel like, with everything what we're seeing there, I cannot understand how they've not given that, because Mo Salah's going in to maybe get the ball on the other side of it. Martin Odegaard, yes, he might be slipping, but he's not falling over. You know, where you can see the arm going down to the ground so the ball's hit it. It felt like the arm came towards it. I just can't understand what his thinking was to not hit it. It felt like the arm came towards it. I just can't understand what his thinking was to not give it. Why didn't he give it?
Yeah, his feedback, Wright, was the fact that he was slipping and he felt that his arms was coming in closer to his body, so he was making himself smaller. But the last image that we see was the one, wasn't it? Because you see that he is slipping, there's no doubt about that. His arm is coming in, but his arm's coming in towards the ball. And having seen that, I'm in the camp with you and Michael. I think, it's there. It's just it almost traps the ball. And I think a penalty is much more acceptable and would have been much more understandable. What you would say, though, Righty, is that if it was given, traps the ball. And I think a penalty is much more acceptable and would have been much more understandable. What you would say, though, Righty, is that if it was given on the field, the VAR was never going to overturn it. That's the vagary of the system.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would complain about that.
No, absolutely not. Derm, I've got no real massive problem with the referee not seeing. He's probably a fair distance away and maybe not at the greatest angle. So why do you think VAR didn't intervene and say this is a clear and obvious one? Do you not think it met the threshold?
Well, as I said, Michael, I can hear them speaking, and I heard him say back to Chris Kavanagh, I heard him say, well, he's slipped and his arm's coming in towards his body, he's making himself smaller. So whether he's just felt that and not seen it like we have, or whether he hasn't seen the angle like we have, but without doubt, the angle the last four of us have seen is the most damning one, isn't it? You see his arm come in, it does come in, but without doubt it plays the ball.
I think that, for me, they've got to do away with all that, he's falling and he's made himself smaller, and that's handball. And that's as simple as it should be. Don't overcomplicate it. That was a handball today.
All right, Dermot, thank you so much for giving us that insight. Great to have you with us on Matchday Live Extra. All right, that was Dermot Gallagher just helping us understand a little bit more about what happened in that decision. And I think agreeing with both of you that it should have been a penalty. That's one of the talking points. The other will certainly be Trent Alexander-Arnold and the opportunity that he had to seal the game for Liverpool.
Yeah, not often you see a breakaway when there's 5 players against 2. But that's exactly what Liverpool had in this situation. Declan Rice on his own, backpedaling. And you can see 3 players here queuing up. It ended up falling to Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it just slightly pops up. You just watch the ball bouncing slightly there. And he actually catches it quite well, Wrighty. But maybe his technique is one thing that you'd say cost him.
Only because, Mike, look, the thing is, he's coming onto it, and I think that he's obviously thinking, Jules, I just need to connect with this, it's going in. But what you notice is that as a strike, those things can happen, where it just bobbles up a little bit. You've got to get over it. You've got to get over it and get over the ball so as it stays down. And I think that as it bobbled up, he was a little bit leaning back and bad, and that's why it went on the bar. But I was pleased to see it, if I'm going to be totally honest, but I was not expecting them to miss that.
We're going to move on now to